So my partner Ryan asked me a simple question. Hey, Chael, do you want to talk about Stipe versus Jones? Sure, Ryan. What do you want me to say? Do you want me to lay out for the audience where we're at with this whole thing? Jon Jones has not fought in 2 years, guys? Am I close? Maybe a little bit more? Stipe wants to fight Jones. I know that for sure because I'm pen pals with Stipe's old lady, and she shared that with me months ago. So long ago that I kept it to myself, I thought she was telling me a secret. Then Dana came out and talked about it. Great, everybody knows. Jon Jones has been very tough to deal with. He even gave his belt back. He left the division. He didn't fight it, but now all of a sudden he's coming back. Jon is, from what we're hearing now, not hard to deal with at all. He's accepted the position he's in. He understands it's going to be Stipe. We got to work out, is this for the undisputed championship or the interim championship? But that seems like a small fix. And frankly, I don't know that it matters. Right? We want to see them fight first and foremost. Yeah, sure, we're going to put some kind of a prize up. I don't know where Francis is in this whole thing. I do find that interesting. I feel like Francis is blowing it. I want to see Francis keeping his name out there. And, you got to understand, and fighters don't. Fighters are whores. They will talk to Dana, they will talk to Coker. Whoever pays them more money is who they will give their services to. Happens every single time. They shouldn't do that. When you pick your promoter, it should not just be about the money in the contract. It should be about opportunity. It should be about plans. It should be about where you can get a push. It should be about exposure. There's long-term plays that you need to make. Francis has a great promoter who has got his name out there across the world. If Francis turns on that contract, he also says no to his promoter. Fine, he just needs to know that. So now he's going to need to start building connections. He's going to need to start getting his story out there. He's not going to have somebody do it for him, which is what the promoter does. Small point by me, but I'm watching Francis lay out on this thing completely. If Stipe and Jones fight, Francis will not be invited. Francis needs to be first in line at Ticketmaster, get himself a front row seat, show up in that suit that looks good, and have the belt over his shoulder. Deal with security, keep him back, say he's got the right to be there with the ticket. He needs to insert himself into this in some way. Whatever Francis can get to fight Tyson Fury is directly related not to what Francis has done in the past. That's the misconception, that's the mistake, that's the landmine that everybody steps in. How hot is your name right now? And this has been proven time and time again. The number one star in our sport, without exception, provable, verifiable numbers, is McGregor. How'd his last fight go? How does fight before that go? You see the problem? Or at least you see where I'm right? That it just matters how hot can you be. And Conor brings us in on everything. Conor goes and gets on a scale. He takes a picture. He brings it to us. Conor starts making a comeback. He films it. He puts it out. Conor put sparring footage from over the weekend out. He did not look great in sparring, but it was still Conor and gave us something to talk about. He doesn't have to look great. He just needs to be out there. And those videos are very powerful, like the way that Conor does them. He gives no context. You don't know who the partner is. You don't know if that's the fourth round. You don't know if there was already 3 rounds before it and Conor had fresh guys. Conor's exhausted. Like, you have no context, but that's where the power is. It creates a discussion. I'm only sharing that with you. I apologize. Ngannou needs to make sure that he stays within the discussion. Now, is Jon going to bite Stipe? I think so. That's the fight. But I'm just not here on my own. Dana has said that's the fight that he would like to make. Stipe's old lady told me that they've already accepted that fight. Jon Jones is talking about and is in training camp. And training camp hasn't been easy for Jon. Right? He left the Albuquerque situation. So he's got somewhere else he can train when he's in Albuquerque, but he's also been going out to Phoenix. I mean, he's showing a dedication. Showing a real commitment and a real dedication. The experiment of Jon Jones has got to take place, in my opinion. Now, nobody can control that. I believe the experiment is going to be preserved, which is Jon is the greatest fighter the sport's ever seen, but can he do it in a new division against bigger guys? Well, that becomes a little bit of a tricky situation when you deal with Stipe. Jon has been very clear with us. He's got to weigh 240. He picked the number. It's very arbitrary, but he's been very clear with us. Yeah, he's got to weigh 240. He got up to 242 according to his Instagram. So he's there. Let's just say he's going to weigh in at 240. Stipe has not weighed 240 in 2.5 years. So the experiment goes up in smoke, right? If Jon Jones, even if it's the day before, if Jon Jones faces us with Stipe and he's got 8 pounds on Miocic, this entire experiment, that piece is gone. That's still the fight we want to see, but that piece is gone. Now, when I come back to my pen pal, Mrs. Miocic, she says that Stipe put on 20 pounds of muscle. 20 pounds the right way. When they went to Ohio and Stipe got a cameo for the Curtis Blades fight, he looked it. I don't know what he weighed, but it was at least honest that whatever he weighs is good weight. We could all see that even through his shirt and jacket, right? So Stipe, in my opinion, has got to weigh in more than Jon. I want him to put on 20 pounds. I want him to be 255 pounds. Jon Jones comes anywhere around that 240 mark, and we at least preserve the question of, can Jon deal with a bigger man? We know Jon can beat everybody. We know Jon can become the world champion. We know Jon can beat Stipe, but we know Stipe could beat Jon too. We know Jon does some of his best work by throwing people down and keeping them there and beating them up. Like, Jon's ground and pound is very hard to match. But they do have the common opponent in Daniel Cormier, and we've seen how hard it is to take Stipe down and to keep him there. So now you have a stand-up fight with a very tricky, I don't talk about Jon as a kickboxer, I call him a trick boxer. Because he's got more traps, he's got more setups, he's got more different moves. I mean, he's teaching the world the oblique kick just by example. He will lead a fight, everybody else is with ones and twos. He'll lead it with elbows, right? See round 5 of the Rashad Evans fight, just by example. Jon will do stuff that nobody else can do. He'll run across the ring, jump in the air, and throw a flying knee. Like, these are things that Stipe's not going to do. Stipe is very basic, but basics win championships all the time. Like, that fight works. The X's and O's of that fight, it is compelling as hell. Not to mention, we're not just stacking the deck against Jon with the weight. We are stacking that against him. But some bitch has gotten so good, we have to put something against him. It's got to be a handicap somewhere. You're also stacking the deck of how are you going to do with a new gym, a new training situation, and having been removed for the sport for X amount of time. I think it's 2 years. I'm making that number, but I know I'm close. How are you going to do? Fair question for anybody, which also stacks favor into the opponent's category, which in this case happens to be Stipe. So Ryan wants to know if I want to talk about this fight. I'll talk about this fight all day. But quite frankly, I'm a little annoyed. We're having meetings about meetings. We're talking about let's do the fight. Let's do the damn fight. I don't know what's going on International Fight Week, but I do know that that is the blowout show. And that didn't used to be. It used to be within the UFC Super Bowl weekend. That was the one that the organization really got behind. There was another organization out of Japan called Pride. And Pride had already claimed New Year's Eve. That was their day. Big New Year's Eve show. I want to say they even were in the venue at like midnight when, the clock strikes. It was this whole thing. So the UFC claimed Super Bowl weekend. But now it's International Fight Week. And we've got a number of fights that are looming, that are just out there. We've got Leon versus Kamaru. Why does that not have a date? We've got Jones versus Stipe. Why does that not have a date? I think we're going to have answers very soon. Don't be stunned to get both of those whopper fights that I just mentioned on the same card. And then what's McGregor do, right? You've got all these discussions. You've got a lot up in the air. I'm happy to talk about the fight. That's my answer to Ryan. Those are the pieces to this. Can we just sign the damn contract and do the fight?